Hi, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Royer. This is a video so you can see and hear me, but I can't see and hear you. Today we're going to read the book, A Chair for My Mother. So in A Chair for My Mother, Rosa, her mother, and her grandmother lose everything they own in a fire. Their new apartment has some furniture, a rug, pots, dishes, and silverware, but it doesn't have a comfortable chair. How will they get that chair? So we're going to read to find out. We're going to read to find out. Before we get started, I'd like to share some vocabulary words with you. The first word is waitress. Can you say waitress? Good job. So a waitress is a woman who serves food at a restaurant. So waitress. Our next word is diner. Can you say diner? Good. So a diner is a type of restaurant where the food doesn't cost a lot of money. Diner. Our next word is change. Can you say change? Good. So sometimes change can mean like swap it out, but in this case, change means coins like pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters. So change. Our next word is tips. Can you say tips? Good work. So tips is money you give to people to thank them for doing a good job. So waitresses usually make tips. Our next word is bargain. Can you say bargain? Good work. So bargain is something that's worth more money than you paid for it. So maybe you got it on sale, a bargain. All right, our next word is spoiled. Can you say spoiled? Good work. So that's when you can't use something anymore because it got ruined. So spoiled. The next one is a phrase, not a word. So the phrase is take a load off my feet. So that's, we're not going to say that one because it's not a word, it's a phrase. Take a load off my feet. So that's when you sit down in a chair and rest, usually because your feet hurt. So taking a load is the weight of your body and you're getting it off of your feet. So usually when your feet hurt. Last word, exchanged. Can you say exchanged? Good. So exchange is a trade. So you're giving one thing and getting another thing back. All right, so those are our words. We're going to get started with A Chair for My Mother. And the author is Vera B. Williams. So this medal right here is the Caldecott Honor, and that means it was selected as a really good book. So let's go ahead and read A Chair for My Mother. My mother works as a waitress in the blue tile diner. After school, sometimes I go and meet her there. Then her boss, Josephine, gives me a job too. I wash the salt and peppers and I fill the ketchups. One time I peeled all the onions for the onion soup. And when I finish, Josephine says, "Good work, honey," and she pays me. And every time I put half of my money into a jar. Oh, you know what? Diner was on there too. Blue Tile Diner. So here's a picture of that restaurant. So remember, waitress is a woman who works at a restaurant and serves the tables, and a diner is a restaurant where the food doesn't cost a lot of money. It takes a long time to fill a jar this big. Every day when my mother comes home from work, I take down the jar. My mama empties all of her change from tips out of her purse for me to count. Then we push all the coins into the jar. Sometimes my mama is laughing when she comes home from work. Sometimes she's so tired that she falls asleep while I count the money out into piles. Some days she has lots of tips, and some days she has only a little. Then she looks worried, but every single evening, every shiny coin goes into the jar. So remember, change is another word for coins like pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters. And tips is money you give to people to say thank you for doing a good job. So, so waitresses make tips. Usually at the end of your dinner, you give them a tip. We sit in the kitchen to count the tips. Usually, Grandma sits with us too. While we count, she likes to hum. Often, she has money in her old leather wallet for us. Whenever she gets a good bargain on tomatoes or bananas or something she buys, she puts the savings, she puts by the savings and they go into the jar. So remember, bargain means when you got something that's worth more than you paid for it. So she's saying she got a bargain on her fruits and vegetables. A good deal, a sale. When we can't get another single coin into the jar, we're going to take out all the money and go buy a chair. Yes, a chair. A wonderful, beautiful, fat, soft armchair. We will get one covered in velvet with roses all over it. We're going to get the best chair in the whole world. That's because our old chairs burned up. There was a big fire in our other house, and all our chairs burned. So did our sofa, and so did everything else. And that wasn't such a very long time ago. My mother and I were coming home from buying new shoes. I had new sandals, she had new pumps. We were walking to our house from the bus. We were looking at everyone's tulips. She was saying she liked red tulips, and I was saying I liked yellow ones. Then we came to our block. Right outside our house stood two big fire engines. I could see lots of smoke. Tall, orange flames came out of the roof. All the neighbors stood in a bunch across the street. Mama grabbed my hand and we ran. My Uncle Sandy saw us and ran to us. Mama yelled, "Where's Mother?" And I yelled, "Where's my grandma?" My Aunt Ida waved and shouted, "She's here, she's okay, don't worry." Grandma was all right. Our cat was safe too, though it took a while to find her. But everything else in our whole house was spoiled. That means ruined and you can't use it anymore. What was left of the house was turned to charcoal and ashes. We went to stay with my mother's sister, Aunt Ida, and Aunt Sandy. Then we were able to move into the apartment downstairs. We painted the walls yellow. The floors were all shiny, but the rooms were very empty. The first day we moved in, the neighbors brought pizza and cake and ice cream, and they brought us a lot of other things too. The family across the street brought a table and 3 kitchen chairs. The very old man next door gave us a bed from when his children were little, and my other grandpa brought us his beautiful rug. My mother's other sister, Sally, had made us red and white curtains. Mama's boss, Josephine, brought pots and pans, silverware, and dishes. My cousin brought me her own stuffed bear. Everyone clapped when my grandmother made a speech. "You are all the kindest people," she said, "and we thank you very, very much. It's lucky that we're young and we can start over." Uh, This must have a lot of green on this page because you can see through bits of it. That was last year, but we still have no sofa and no big chairs. When Mama comes home, her feet hurt. There's no good place for me to take a load off of my feet, she says. When Grandma wants to sit back and hum and cut up potatoes, she has to get as comfortable as she can on a hard wooden chair. So that was how Mama brought home the biggest jar she could find at the diner, and all the coins started to go into the jar. Now the jar was too heavy for me to lift down. Uncle Sandy gave me a quarter, and he had to boost me up so he could put me in. So remember, take a load off of my feet means to sit down and take a rest. And then, of course, diner is the place where Mama works, and it's a type of restaurant where the food doesn't cost a lot of money. After supper, Mama and Grandma and I stood in front of the jar. "Well, I never would have believed it happened, but it's full," Mama said. My mother brought home little paper wrappers for the nickels and the dimes and the quarters, and I counted them all up and wrapped them all up. On my mother's day off, we took all the coins to the bank. The bank exchanged them for $10 bills. Then we took the bus downtown to shop for our chair. We stopped, we shopped through 4 furniture stores. We tried out big chairs and smaller ones, high chairs and low chairs, soft chairs and harder chairs. Grandma said she felt like Goldilocks and the 3 bears trying out all those chairs. So why don't you go ahead and stop the video. And my question is, why do you think Grandma said she feels like Goldilocks and the Three Bears? I'll wait. Finally, we found the chair we were all dreaming of, and the money in the jar was enough to pay for it. We called Aunt Ida and Uncle Sandy. They came right down in their pickup truck to drive the chair home for us. They knew we couldn't wait for it to be delivered. I tried out our chair in the back of the truck. Mama wouldn't let me sit there while we drove, but they let me sit in it while we carried it up to the door. So, another question. Why do you think that Mama wouldn't let her sit in the chair while the truck was driving? Pause the video and I'll wait. We set the chair right beside the window and the red and white curtains. Mama and Grandma and I all sat in it while Aunt Ida took our picture. Now Grandma sits in it and talks with people going by in the daytime. Mama sits down and watches the news on TV when she comes home from her job. And after supper, I sit with her and I can reach up and turn out the light if I fall asleep in her lap. The end. So that was a chair for my mother. So I have a question. When Rosa is paid for helping at the diner, she puts half of the money in the jar. I wonder what she does with the other half of her money. What would you do if you had some money? So I'd like you to talk about that with your teacher, and I'm going to say goodbye. Bye bye.